amores. Welcome back to another Wednesdays con Wilma. Thank you for spending some of your time with me. And I am so happy to be back and consistent and clearing things out for the new year. So, before we get into what this video is going to be, please like, share, subscribe, engage. As always, I enjoy seeing the thumbs up, I enjoy seeing a comment or two. Just keep it open. Also, if you have any suggestions, by all means, drop it below in the comments. This video is about my reading goals for 2025, and I wanted to be a little bit more intentional with what those goals will be. I didn't want to put a numeric number um, because, first of all, last year didn't obtain the number that I put out, but more so be intentional across all things and under consuming. Um, Buying more from like thrift store, getting going to the library, or borrowing from friends and swapping out, but definitely wanted to be intentional. And I wanted to talk about what would be my 2020 reading goals from my own library. No matter when or how throughout the year, I need to make sure that I read these books because I either started them sometime, some say, brought them, do some type of hype on social media, and I want to get them and read them, and I got them for a reason. So I'm going to go over some titles that no matter what else I read for the year, these are a must read for me before the end of 2025. Starting off with 7 Days in June by Tia Williams. Started this, thought it was hilarious as it started, and definitely about like the love story and the conversation. I like that it's like a book within the book because the main character is a writer, but either or, definitely I put it on a shelf for some reason and got consumed with other things. Want to make sure that I read 7 Days in June. Next is The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. Started this again, was intrigued, very much like what's going on here, what is going on with this character, things of that nature. Tried my best to stay off of conversations about it, to not be spoiled by what's going on, but definitely started it. Didn't get into, I want to say more than like 3 chapters and then put it down. Want to finish it by end of 2025. Next is The 7 Year Slip by Ashley Poston. This was one of those blind date books that I had got by over the summer, and I didn't really know what it was about. And now that I know that it's a romance, I've heard good things about it. Didn't Not enough to spoil it for me, but heard that it was a good romantic book. And as I'm trying to get back into romance, well, not even get back into it because I never really was in it, but I'm trying to give romance literature a chance because I get very frustrated very quickly when main character, especially the female protagonist, is just a ditzy dumb bitch, and I'm just like, now come on, like y'all fell in love in 2 seconds, and now what's the rest? What else is in store in this dumbass book? But anyway, I got it. It's on my bookcase. I heard good things about it. Want to make sure before the year is out that I read it. Another social media recommendation that I got, The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. Started the book, didn't get much of a dent into it. Want to make sure that I read it. I did hear that it's also a really good love story. Want to give it a chance. So I want to finish it out and make sure that this is one of my read books for 2020. Next is The Midnight Library by Haig. Started this book very heavy in the content of it, and I like the premise of what would your life be like if you had access to different choices. So I want to finish it out. I want to see like what her life ends up with. So like I said, started it, put it down. Want to make sure that I end the year with reading this fully. Next is The Davenports by Krystal Marquis. Brought this earlier last year when I told myself I'm gonna go and get into romance, yada yada yada. This was one of my friends' suggestions, so put it on the shelf. Never opened it, never cracked it. Want to make sure that I get into it. It's a fun, light love story. It's also a good conversation about like wealth and reputation, and it's like giving like Bridgerton-esque type of vibe. So I enjoy those series. Well, visually, I haven't read any of the Bridgerton books, but I enjoyed what I've watched. So why not see what I can read? So this is one of those need to be read by end of 2025. The next is The Destroyer of Worlds, A Return to Lovecraft Country by Matt Ruff. This is the continuation of Lovecraft Country. I inhaled that book, and then, of course, the series that we were robbed of a second season of, but definitely wanted to get into the next book and that continuation. I believe it may have came out, excuse me, last year or the year before last, um, in 2023. So it came out in 2023, and I want to make sure that I read it. Lovecraft Country was incredible, and so I want to make sure that I read this next chapter. Well, excuse me, the next continuation of it. So that is my goal for 2025. So I don't have a lot of like book series in my book collection. I only have two. I have the Hunger Games, and I have the Interview with the Vampire series by Anne Rice that was amazingly gifted to me by my sister-in-law and my mother-in-law about 2 years ago. So one thing I want to do for 2025 is consume the whole series, even if it takes me the entire year. I want to consume the whole entire series, and then I want to rewatch the Interview with the Vampire series with like the back and context that I now have from the books, which is really, really cool. So that in its total is going to be like a great gem to like go execute and do. But I want to make sure that I give these books their proper like read, it, like just consume it all. And I cannot wait to jump back into the series with all this information and being like, so that was what that gem was, or that was what that was alluding to. So definitely that is my absolute must read for 2025, along with anything else that I consume for the year. Thank you for spending some of your Wednesday con Wilma. Remember to read what entertains you. You'll always be entertained. We'll see you next week when I review my first read of 2025, which was the TikTok Shop by Blind Date Half Moon Bay. See you next week. Ciao. Bye. Love ya.
KO.
Reportando en vivo after giving Devilti las más fotos a listen, and I was like, girl, you have some more books that you really, really need to read for 2025 with this album coming in. So vamos a ver what I need to read along with the others. And outfit check porque es otro día. And I was thinking and I was like, you know what? No, 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 no. Para la cultura, these books need to be read. Okay. Starting with War Against Puerto Ricans, A Revolution and Terror in America's Colony, Nelson A. Denis. I read this back in 2019, which I think I need to do a separate experience as to why I read it. It was really, really cool, tied into like my Philadelphia experience. Was able to go to Puerto Rico that year. Just, yeah, you know what? I'm going to make this a reread and a separate story time con ustedes for this. So War Against Puerto Ricans definitely need to have a reread in 2025. Following, following, Oscar Lopez Rivera, Between Torture and Resistance, which I actually got to meet from that book and that experience. So I'll tie this all in together. Got to meet him, super amazing man, just wow. So I'll save that for story time, but those two major books definitely need to be read, reread, and read in 2025. The following, La Crisis Política en Puerto Rico, by Juan M. Garcia. Definitely need to read this. It's in Spanish, so I will be translating, obviously, what I read in the review, but must read in 2025. Y después, I have this book that I got in my book outlet haul last year, Velorio, by Xavier Navarro Aquino. This is Next is Velorio by Xavier Navarro Aquino. This is a novel that's set in Puerto Rico after Hurricane Maria. Um, it stakes it's it says we all thought we were ready for Maria. With this line, Xavier Navarro Aquino sets the stakes for his beautiful, heartbreaking novel. Was Puerto Rico ready for Hurricane Maria? No. And yet the people endured it anyway. In the vein of Jasmine Ward's Salvage the Bones, Velorio is a testimony to the resilience, the trials and triumphs of a family and an island of people. This is one hell of a debut. So this is Xavier's first novel. So gonna give this a read and definitely needed to be done by 2025. Next is An African American and Latina History of the United States by Paula Ortiz. Need it. Need to read it. This is the year of getting more into that background. Like, I feel like I can do well with bits and pieces here, but I want to deep dive into the knowledge. So this will be read by 2025. Second to last is Where They Burn Books, They Also Burn People by Marcos Antonio Hernandez. I don't know if this is a historical fiction or retelling. I know that it's based in Mexico. In 1549, it says, convinced he's destined to fulfill a whispered prophecy, Friar Diego de Landa labors to convert the Maya of the Yucatan Peninsula, discovering a brutal Spanish landowner persecuting the native population. Quizá, maybe it is a historical fiction. Either way, I'm pretty sure it's sprinkled in with some real stuff. Going to be reading this by end of 2025. And last but not least, it is Paola Ramos' second book, Defectors: The Rise of the Latino Far Right and What It Means for America. I was very like, ugh, do I really care about Latinos converting into MAGA, que si esto y lo otro? But I think it deserves a reading and an understanding of what the white supremacy holds outside of the United States, and recognizing that white supremacy isn't just in the United States. It's colorism and all the isms trickle into all of other countries that were colonized. So definitely want to read it for that aspect, and also like Paula Ramos's first book, Finding Latinx. So I enjoy her journalistic style, so I will be giving that a read. And so I had to do a redo before publishing the full video. Those will be all of the videos that I'll be reading for 2025. Ciao. Starting in with War Against Puerto Ricans. Ay, coño.
Bye bye.